say is I do miss that idea of having like a really good raid leader that can take a brand new group through something that is, relatively difficult content, but if they explain it all to the group and they're calling out, that group can still get through it. That way you can kind of carry some of your newbie people through, or let people have a nice introduction by going with a good group and then being like, all right, now you got to figure out for yourself moving forward, things like that. I mean, I remember literally sitting there and talking about what was right and wrong, what we're doing, each boss, before each raid and WoW back in the day. And then it suddenly became, make sure you watch the video before we raided, guys.
Yeah. It became someone
and
else
have all your add-ons updated.
Yeah. And that's not fun, right? That takes away any enjoyment for me in raiding. I like, okay, and I know this takes longer, and so people don't like it as much, blah, 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 but we just wiped. Like, okay, so I will say, going back to the SWTOR thing, Eternity Vault is a 3-phase fight. When you get to the last phase, you have to kite the boss until a pillar comes down and breaks his shield, and that's when you have a chance to DPS him.
I honestly loved that mechanic.
Figuring that out for the first time was frustrating. Like, the first few times we went after that boss, we were like, we're not doing any damage. What the fuck's going on? And these pillars keep killing us. And someone said randomly, hey, it was the same moment you and I had in Ashes Bard. It was that moment of, hey, should we take Soa underneath the giant pillar that's coming down? Maybe that will do damage to him. It broke his shield and then we were good. And I was like, hey, Bard, that talisman we're trying to make, what do you? And you're like, I'm already ahead of you. We're already doing. Yep, I can get into this dragon with no fire damage taken. That moment of discovery, I think, is something that's really important. I think it's why we like new games, is to discover something that no one else has discovered, really.
Well, and it was the same thing going through the New World dungeons. I mean, our group, when we first went through the expedition, the very first, or was it the first or the second? I think it was the second. Yeah, because the first one was easy. That was a throwaway. It was the second expedition at 35. And we had somebody who had seen the video, and we told him, shut up. Don't tell us anything. Like, we're going to figure this out. And we had wiped on the last boss, I think, twice. And then I was finally like, okay, you know what? Fuck it. These seem like spread mechanics, but I think they're actually stack mechanics. And I think it's a little bit of a heal check. So let's stack. Let's make this happen, because if the ads are spawning based on player location, then let's pick where the ads are going to spawn, and let's spawn them all on top of us and AoE them down and do that. And that type of discovery is it's better than the boss kill. Honestly, like when you were the one to be like the guy that, like, within your group that was like, hey, put Soa underneath the pillar. I guarantee you, he was flying higher than anybody else in the group, because it was his idea that got the boss down. And that discovery is just so, and you can't get that unless it's new content. And so it's one of those things that's not you can't replicate it easily.
It's the other issue, and that's what Blizzard kind of fucked up on, by allowing people to make content on the beta tests. And they would allow people to make, like, Fat Boss was allowed to make boss guides before the raid was even out. And it was based off the beta content, but that's still like, no, that can't, like, no, people need to figure it out for themselves. And, like, unless you're at the, like, top world 100 mythic raiders, and trying to figure out the strats for yourselves, you're never going to have those moments of discovery, because if you want to compete, if you want to be even close to competing, you have to watch that content.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, and we talked about it before when it came to player-based testing. I can't remember how many weeks back it was, but we specifically talked about WoW. But one thing that they never see is the mythic phase. They're never allowed to see the mythic phase of the final boss. Now, I don't think that excuses it. I agree, Bard. Like, I think that
of the final boss. So
right, exactly. Like the last 5 to 10 minutes, 50 minutes if it's Sylvanas. But because that fight's so damn long.
It's a long fight.
So what was the kill? Like 18, 20 minutes, something like that. That was crazy. So I think, like, when in terms of WoW, they need to pull that back a little bit. But I also don't know if a game like WoW is actually able to do that in the same way that a game like New World or Ashes is going to be able to. Because not only is the dungeon or the expedition itself new content, but and speaking directly about Ashes here as opposed to New World, the discovery of that dungeon or the discovery of that raid is content in and of itself. It's not just this portal that's sitting there and you go through it, you get the group that you want, and you go through it. Like, something within the world has to happen. And so, and it's just another reason why we're so hype about Ashes, because it's content on top of content on top of content. Like,
yeah, and that's the thing, right? And I think that's why Ashes is going to be successful, is because Eve, like, you, like, especially in World of Warcraft, you feel like you have to watch the videos, you have to watch the guides, you have to get all the information you can to compete with everyone else, right? There's no other option. Everyone's doing the same content. If you are missing any kind of information, you're missing out. Whereas in Ashes, if a new dungeon opens up,
you might be the first server with it.
You might be the first server with it, or even if other servers have had it, you're the only group in there. It's an open world dungeon. You have all the time in the world to figure it out for yourself and mess around and try things out.